The issue, or as some people believe, non-issue, of All Lives Matter has come up in my life recently. First, because one of my favorite guilty pleasures, watching Final Thoughts with Tomi Lahren, will soon be gone as Tomi's show is going off the air. Tomi, for those of you who don't know, is a conservative political commentator, a star on Glenn Beck's network, The Blaze, and her videos can be found all over Facebook and YouTube. Her ideas are partisan, divisive, and largely half-baked. I find Tomi to be somewhere between anthropologically fascinating, disturbing, and genuinely talented and smart, albeit poorly researched, the latter of which might shock and offend people. Nevertheless, in honor of her departure, I have been going through the archives to find some of my favorite outrageous Tomi moments. All Lives Matter comes up more than once in her commentaries, and she is quick to explain that Black lives are being included when people say, all lives, subtext, what's the problem here? Sean Hannity seems to have the same question. I recently saw a clip of him discussing the issue of Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter with several panel members. In it, he asks, really pleads, or comes as close to pleading as someone with an ego that big can, what is so controversial about saying all lives matter? Now, to be fair, on the surface, I get their point. Certainly, all lives matter constitutes a step up over Black Lives Matter insofar as they create economic prosperity for the elite white class and after that have no real value and may as well be disposed of entirely, which was more or less the stance of the United States for the first 100+ years of our existence. So I get it, Sean, Tomi, all lives matter. This is what we want, right? Equality, all lives, equal footing. That's why it's so confusing to you that many of us find all lives matter to be a little racist. So let me try to explain, because frankly, Sean, I didn't think your panelists did the best job. We, or maybe I shouldn't generalize, I don't have a problem with all lives matter because I somehow don't agree with the idea that all lives matter, or because I don't understand, Tomi, that the word all includes Black lives. Of course, all lives matter. Our problem with All Lives Matter is that the All Lives Matter rallying cry is used as a response to the Black Lives Matter rallying cry, and therefore in lieu of acknowledging or engaging with the legitimate arguments the Black Lives Matter movement is trying to make. It would be like if you had been fired and dumped and kicked out of your apartment all on the same day, and you were like, man, I am having such a bad day. And then your friend was like, we're all having bad days, Carly, we all have bad days. Like, yeah, thanks, but I'm having a particularly bad day, and right now this isn't about everyone. Basically, All Lives Matter gets used to dismiss and downplay a movement that those using it don't seem to have bothered to try to understand. Now, let me be clear. I am not a fan of the actions or decisions made by all members of the Black Lives Matter movement, or even all the official stances taken by the movement itself, but I understand this. The lives of people of color in this country are treated with less care and respect and dignity than white lives, in a variety of ways, including but not limited to the fact that they are pulled over, viewed suspiciously, and treated violently by cops at a much higher rate than white people. They are kept economically disempowered by both subtle and overt biases in hiring processes, government funding processes, compensation processes, etc., which are predominantly controlled by white people. For example, when identical resumes are sent to employers, candidates with white-sounding names get interview callbacks 50% more often than candidates with, again, identical resumes, but black-sounding names. Other studies have found that white state legislators are less likely to respond to constituents with African-American sounding names. This is true of legislators in both political parties. Yet another study found that when whites and blacks were sent to bargain for a used car, blacks were offered initial prices roughly $700 higher than their white peers, and they received far smaller concessions. Now, maybe this isn't because all those white people think black people as a race are worth less than white people are. Maybe it's because people in positions of power, again, predominantly white people, are drawn toward familiar white names and uncomfortable with things that seem more foreign, black names. Maybe politicians are responding to the fact that blacks are, in aggregate, poorer than whites, and they would rather cater to the needs of the wealthy who will make campaign donations later on. And maybe sometimes employers are consciously or subconsciously biased against people of color because of racist and damaging stereotypes. We can't know. But these things are at the core of what is so frustrating to people of color and underlie the Black Lives Matter movement, with, of course, police brutality being the predominant catalyst for the movement. Against that backdrop, saying all lives matter feels glib and emotionally illiterate. It's like the I'm not touching you of political movements. Yes, technically, you are not touching me, but I am feeling angry and violated, and you don't seem to be hearing me or understanding that, intentionally. So screw you, and you're not technically touching me. You may not think racial and sexual prejudices are the biggest problems this country faces. You may think they are overblown by the media and used by the Democratic Party to pander for votes. I agree. But here's a secret. When you act like no problems exist around racism and sexism by, for example, responding to Black Lives Matter with nothing but all lives matter, you not only exacerbate our need to emphasize these issues, but you preclude the conversation from moving forward to solutions and new topics. You want to stop hearing about microaggressions and trigger warnings, Tommy, and talk about foreign policy and tax plans? Fantastic, so do I. So stop using all lives matter to gaslight 50+% of Americans by acting like issues about race and gender are made up. Why is saying all lives matter so controversial, Sean? I hope this helps explain.